Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. Well, today on the channel we're going to make 4 butter knives, wooden butter knives at that, suitable for spreading spreads, jams, pâtés, anything like that. So come along with me today, I'll show you how I did it. So I started out by cutting my timber. You can pretty well use any type of non-toxic type of timber. Semi-hardwoods probably work the best, but I used some softwood too and it seemed to work fine too. Here you see me showing I'm going to cut a taper. One of the simplest ways I find to cut a taper up against the fence is to put a block at the other end. So if I wanted to cut from 1/2 inch down to 1/4 inch over the entire length, I put a 1/4 inch block at the other end. I was simply masking tape it on. So when it comes up against the fence at that point, it will be roughly, say, 1/4 inch thick if I wanted it that thick. So I worked out my taper roughly, and this is how I cut it. In my case, I wanted my handle end to be about twice as thick as the blade end. So I put a spacer that worked that out over the 8-inch length that I've roughly used. This is now my tapered blank. So I proceeded to taper down my boards lengthwise. One of them I didn't taper down. I decided to make the handle 3 times as wide as the blade thickness. And you'll see that's the one I'm doing next. It's the only one that varies. The others I cut with a taper using the block like I showed you before. And that system works well. If you've got a long enough fence, you can cut a taper easily that way. Now these are the shapes and lengths that I wanted to do. You can cut the shapes and lengths any way you want to. On this particular knife, it was easier for me to cut the side profile at the same time as I was cutting the length profile. It may be worth noting, if you haven't got a bandsaw, you could cut it out with a scroll saw or coping saw, or even some of the straighter ones you could cut out with a hand saw, or you could use an electric jigsaw even, a handheld jigsaw to cut these out in different shapes and sizes. The chances are you may have an offcut on the floor that you could even use. You could shape it with a spoke shave if you haven't got a sander either. Now I begin to mark out all the side profiles and all of them, except the other one that I've done the side profile on already. So here are the finished profiles that I decided to go with. I made them, so I thought about it a little bit. I thought, what do I want to clean out? Do I want to clean out a butter container? Do I want to clean out a jam bottle? Or in you guys in America might call it a jelly bottle. So I thought I need to round the bottom corners, but I need one side to stick out a little bit more than the other. So I made varying different ones to do this. And if you look online, there's a lot of people make these, and they do different shapes, sizes and profiles. Really it depends on the application you want to use them for. If you're cleaning out containers, you may want to use one of those silicone type of scrapers. These are mainly made for spreading. Because they've got rigidity about them, they spread evenly and you can push with a bit of firmness without it flexing. Now we go on to cutting the rest of the side profiles out. So I cut roughly up beside the line. These things are very forgiving. Doesn't matter if you go over the line a bit. There's no hard and fast rule. Like I say, you can make any weird and wonderful shape you want in these. They'll most likely do what you want them to do. Now the blank profiles are cut, it's onto the spindle sander to sand the concaves. After doing the concave corners, I went to the disc sander and started doing the external corners of the convex and the straight areas. You could alternatively use hand tools to do the convexes and the concave. You could use some rough sandpaper to get the rough shape down, and then or some rasps, and then go down in your grits of sandpaper to do this. Because I've got this gear, I use it. You could alternatively set up an old belt sander or something like that. You'll see in a minute I use a belt sander above. But the way I'm doing the blade sideways like this, the whole lot sideways like this, is not the safest way, especially if your finger slips off. And I actually go over to the belt sander, as you see here now that I've got set up like this. And it works quite good for doing this sort of thing. But you could use it to do the concave corners as well. For those that aren't used to using a disc sander or a sander setup, the best way to do it is to get a flowing motion when you're doing your corners. If you stop and start, you tend to leave flats. But if you get a flowing motion going, it actually works quite well. I go on to finish sand now. I use this little squirrel tail plane just to bevel the edge a little bit more, to thin it down on the spreading edge. It works quite well. I'm using a bit of 120, I think it is, maybe 180. Whatever it is, it's fine enough to finish with in this case. You could go finer if you want to. There's no substitute for hand sanding at all. And you can't get the corners rounded. You wouldn't get a profile in a router bit this small. And like I said, there's no substitute. You can round the corners over quite adequately by hand with the sandpaper. So after finished sanding, I brought them over the house and I put some olive oil on a paper towel. Now I don't use olive oil always. Usually I would use a mineral oil, non-toxic mineral oil, or some food safe oil that's specifically designed for this. But in this case, I thought, well, if I'm going to use these for butter or some other spreads, I want to be sure that whatever I use doesn't taint what I'm using. So I just thought it was probably the safest way to go. And look, it brings them up okay. There's no problem there. And they came up looking quite good, I thought, for what they are. So whatever oil you do decide to use though, make sure it's food safe and non-toxic. You don't want to really cause any problems that way either. Alright, thanks for coming along with me as I made these 4 butter knives. Really appreciate it. You don't have to make them to these designs that I do. You can make them to suit the application you want. Just bear that in mind. Any design or shape or size you want to make. I made these the shapes that I thought would be most handy. If you like the video, please hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. If you want to see some more of my videos, don't forget to hit that notification bell. To all those new subscribers, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate that. There are some playlists there you can follow too and have a look at that you might be interested in. Till next time, bye for now.